How's it guys, this is Dayvy FP and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, we'll be talking about a Game Week 30 wildcard draft. My own personal squad, I'll be using my wildcard in Game Week 31. If you want to kind of know my thinking behind that and the reasoning why I'll be using it in Game Week 31 from Game Week 30, then go check out my updated chip strategy video, a video I made quite a while ago, but the current thinking is exactly the same as that video. So in that video, I go through more detailed points. Throughout this video, I'll be touching on those points slightly, but I'm not trying to convince you guys not to wildcard in Game Week 30. As I say, the wildcard is probably the most subjective chip in FPL, so if your team does need it, then you should go for it. So in this video, we're talking about some fixtures, and then I'll be going on to the players that I select. And then finally, to wrap it up, we're going to be talking about the negatives of my current wildcard draft. As with every pro, there is a con, but hopefully the cons aren't too great. So if that's something you're interested in, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So if you guys have watched the best fixture guide, a video that I released last night, you guys can go check that out in the video link in the description below. I'll put it there for you guys if you do miss it, but you guys can just skip ahead. I will, however, be doing a quick run through and a summary on the talking points covered in that video, as well as going through some new talking points that I might have missed out. So you guys can stick around before we get into that final draft. So going over the best fixtures, what I did was I went onto Fantasy Football Hub and I went over to their fixture ticker, and then I took the fixtures from now to the end of the season. So from Game Week 30 to Game Week 38, then I sorted them according to attacking average points. So what that means is that each fixture has a rating. As say a West Bromwich Albion, they'll have a very bad attacking rating. Basically means that teams usually score quite a lot against them, and then Man City will have a super good attacking rating or quite a low one. So as you can see on screen there, I sorted to attacking average, and we have some top teams there based on those fixture ratings. I went for attacking fixtures over defensive fixtures, as usually if it is a good attacking game for a specific side, that usually is a good defensive performance as well. There's however some merit to sorting to defensive ratings if you want to go for some more defensive options. I mean, a team like Chelsea are probably better from a defensive to an attacking point of view, but I also think from an attacking side, there is more upside. So on those attacks, you generally get more points than maybe a defender getting a clean sheet. We have, however, seen this season that kind of has been the opposite. Some good defenders have provided some attacking and defensive returns, but usually it is on the attacking side of things that the upside chasing does occur. So attacking ratings are what we went for here, and the top sides based on that rating are Arsenal, Liverpool, Wolves, and Southampton. So those four sides are the teams that I'll be focusing on. Arsenal and Liverpool at that top two position, and this is one of the main reasons why I'm not looking at the wild card in Game Week 30, is because Liverpool go and face Arsenal, and then you can kind of jump on those fixture swings for both those sides if you choose to use the wild card in Game Week 31 verse 30, but you can still go for the Game Week 30 wild card and just include these players as well. I would probably suggest to still include Liverpool and Arsenal players, even though they do play against each other. You might just have to take the bullet there and have a low score in Game Week 30 because you have a lot of players in a specific game, but that doesn't mean that the future game weeks won't be good for you. Kind of future-proofing your side here. You're kind of negating one game week to get some good game weeks in the future, and that's the perfect scenario to go for if you're going to be looking at a wild card, because you kind of want to future-proof your side. And that's exactly what you'll be doing with those Arsenal and those Liverpool assets, because just look at those fixtures from Game Week 31 to Game Week 38. They're simply outstanding, and that's why I really would focus on these sides. But then from a more budget differential aspect, you then have your Wolves and your Southampton. So Southampton's options over the next 3 game weeks against Burnley, West Bromwich Albion, and Crystal Palace are going to be really appealing. I mean, if a player like Danny Ings comes back from his injury, I think he's currently back in training. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but a Danny Ings back from injury would look absolutely sensational over those next few fixtures. Or maybe we could go for a more budget option like an Adams or maybe a Redmond if you favor those. A Ward-Prowse could be a nice cheap option in midfield, but I also would focus on that defense. So you have Vestergaard, we have a player like Walker-Peters who's now back from injury, so I would heavily look at some of those options, and you'll see that I have included a couple of those Southampton options in my final wildcard draft. But Wolves is the team that I want to be talking about because they have some mega differentials. The only kind of downside to Wolves is from an attacking point of view, apart from Pedro Neto, there hasn't really been a standard attack. I mean, I would really love for a striker to come out of Wolves in that Game Week 30 fixture that I could bring in for my Game Week 31 wildcard that really stood out. I mean, they've got 2 options there that have been rotating, but neither of them have been as good as a Raul Jimenez, who as of now I think won't be returning for the foreseeable future, but that is also yet to be seen. But those Wolves fixtures, I mean, Fulham, Sheffield United, Burnley, West Bromwich Albion, then Brighton look absolutely sensational, so I really would go for a Wolves option, and I would also look at a defensive option. I know there has been some rotation there, we'll be talking about that a little bit later on, but the nice thing about it is that you can ride those Wolves fixtures from now till Game Week 35, and you can simply just take them out out when their fixtures get a bit tougher from game week 36 to game week 38. Sheffield United I wouldn't focus on too much. We then go to Chelsea, who from a defensive point of view, I definitely think you guys should be investing in, because from now to the end of the season, they have some great fixtures coming up. And the thing with Chelsea is they can basically keep a clean sheet against anyone. Even the top sides, they've been keeping clean sheets, so I definitely would still look at Chelsea. And then Burnley, we always know Burnley, there's nice budget options. They can get a clean sheet when needed, so I definitely would also look at them. The final team that I'm going to be touching on is Manchester United, and the reason being is that I have not included a Manchester United attacker in my wildcard draft. So no, I do not have a Bruno Fernandes. I'm pretty sure it's going to be quite a controversial opinion, but you guys can roast me in the comments down below if you think that Bruno Fernandes is one of those essential picks that I should go for. And I know this doesn't mean that I'm not going to be going for Bruno Fernandes from now to the end of the season. I can simply bring him in whenever I want. The thing is, I just don't know if I'll be looking at those fixtures as that many captaincy options. I mean, I think that game week 32 fixture against Burnley, maybe. I think that game week 33 fixture is probably the standout there in that blank game week against Leeds, but then also have those Liverpool options against Newcastle. The thing that I probably will do is that I'll look at maybe going for a Kevin De Bruyne from the start, and then in game week 32 switching it to a Bruno Fernandes just for a little bit of safety, because you must remember that Bruno Fernandes has an ownership that has absolutely skyrocketed from the start of the season, so I think that most people will have him on the side, and it might not be the best case to bet against the Portuguese midfielder if I still want to get a couple of green arrows. So these are the fixtures from now to the end of the season. Pause the video if you guys want to. If you want to do your own planning for your own wildcard draft, I would suggest just looking at this fixture ticker and kind of planning ahead. And now let's go on to the blank game week 33 fixtures. So I briefly touched on it when we were talking about the fixtures, but there is a blank in game week 33. It's only 4 teams. It's Fulham, Southampton, Manchester City, and then also Spurs. So Man City and Spurs are going to be those two sides with those high ownerships that you guys have to watch out for. Now this doesn't mean that you guys don't have to bring those players in on your wildcard. You must remember there's game week 30, game week 31, game week 32, and then you also have a free transfer before game week 33 to take into account, to take those players out, to get you guys a full starting 11 in game week 33. So you can simply just bench those options. Remember, you guys do have 3 slots. I'm not including the keeper slot because I don't think there's going to be too many keepers from Spurs or Man City that you guys do own. So 3 spots that you can simply bench, and then you can still have those players for game week 34 if they do have a favorable fixture. But these are the game week 33 fixtures, and guys, please plan ahead for game week 33 because I don't want you guys having a bunch of Man City, a bunch of Spurs options, then you can't get a starting 11 without a couple hits for blank game week 33. But we still have some good fixtures here, a very good upside. A team like Aston Villa faces West Brom, Liverpool face Newcastle, Leicester face Crystal Palace, and then United face Leeds. So there's a lot of teams here that you guys can get players in that will hopefully perform well and get you guys quite a good score in blank game week 33. But I just want to give you guys a little bit of a reminder that don't set your wildcard team up and then simply forget about the upcoming blanks. So now let's go on to the team, and this is the wildcard draft that I have decided on, and I want to tell you guys right off the bat that it's super hard to make a wildcard draft for the end of the season. The reason being is that there's just so many options right now, and the options that I've even concluded here haven't been in the best of form. I mean, look at a player like Salah. He's blanked in the last couple of game weeks, so maybe you don't want to bring him in to your side, and you want to bring someone else in, maybe a Bruno Fernandes if you want to go for it. But then the Mo Salah upside is also so high. I mean, those fixtures from now to the end of the season look quite good, so it might be worth just taking a punt on Mo Salah and even doubling up on that Liverpool attack. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Starting off, we do have 0.5 in the bank, so for those of you guys who do have less money than me, if you have 0.5 less than me, you can afford it. If you guys do have more than me, you can simply just do your upgrades as you please. As I always say, if you have more money on your wildcard draft, it's usually the better opinion, and you can just bring in those better quality players, because the more expensive a player is, it usually means that their potential is a lot higher. I think that could be quite a debatable point, but that's generally how FPL works. Starting off on goal here, we've got Forster and we've got Patricio. The reason I've gone for Forster here is that the only keepers cheaper than him come in at 3.9, and you're not going to get a 4.0 playing goalkeeper. So yes, Forster does play the occasional game for Southampton. I don't really know how that's going to work from now to the end of the season, because it seems like he's been rotating with McCarthy, but that's enough hope to include Forster in here, and just kind of hope that he does play when maybe Patricio doesn't have a good fixture. But I've gone for Patricio here as a Wolves defender. We spoke about Wolves with those lovely fixtures, and the reason why I've gone for the goalkeeper from Wolves instead of one of the other alternatives is I don't really favor a player like a Cody or a Bolly from an attacking point of view, and I'd just rather go for Patricio and not have that rotation risk. So you could go for a player like Saiz, maybe go for one of their fullbacks like a Semedo, but the rotation in that Wolves defense has been quite brutal, so that's why I would rather just go with a safe option with Patricio. I know he is currently yellow flagged, but just remember that it was kind of a concussion against Liverpool, and I think that he will be fully recovered for the next game week 30 fixture. So I would go for Patricio here, as I do favor more of the attacking options from the other sides that I have included in my defense. So starting off in the defense, we've gone for Rudiger and Azpilicueta as that double up in that Chelsea defense, which I do think is quite an essential / vital option because just how good that Chelsea defense is. I mean, Rudiger, there is a potential rotation risk, but I do think he'll play most of the game weeks from now to the end of the season. And I mean, Azpilicueta, I don't think he's going to be going anywhere. Seems to be a mainstay in that starting 11 for Chelsea. So I've gone for Rudiger and Azpilicueta as my double up because I think that Chelsea defense is worth kind of doubling up on. I then have included some budget options with Walker-Peters because of the Southampton fixtures being so good. Then also I've gone for Phillips from Liverpool. So I know 4.0 might be a little bit of a punch here, but the thing is the current centre-back partnership that has been working for Liverpool has been Phillips and Kabak. And I mean that Liverpool have had so many centre-back rotations that I think finally they have a sensible one that's doing quite well. I think they'll stick for it for the foreseeable future. So I've gone for Phillips here. I mean, if one of the other centre-backs comes back from injury, you can simply just rotate him. I mean, he is 4.0 million, so not the end of the world if he does get benched. And then you can simply have Tierney or Walker-Peters coming up. That's the final defender we've gone for, is the Arsenal fullback Tierney. I know that he sometimes plays in that 3 at the back in terms of the centre-back position, but I think that Tierney could provide some good upside there. I wanted to include an Arsenal option as well. I mean, he does offer a little bit of attacking and a defensive return there, so I've gone for the Arsenal fullback. And then going on to the midfield, which is quite exciting, I've gone for Salah and Diego Jota as a double up with that Liverpool attack. I think that Diego Jota is just such a consistent option. I know there has been some rotation there with Firmino. Firmino has been out, so that's why Diego Jota has been starting. So with Firmino back from injury, it's going to be interesting to see how Jota kind of rotates and if they do actually rotate that front three. But I think in terms of form, Jota is 100% the most informed Liverpool attacker, so I think that he has to play. I've gone for the double up with Salah just because I think there's some nice fixtures coming up, and I do think that Salah will get back on the bounce with some assists and some returns. I've gone for De Bruyne as well because I do think you need a Man City attacker for that upcoming Leeds fixture because I think that's going to be one of the most high scoring games in FPL this season. So De Bruyne here, just a little bit of a safer option. There is that kind of rotation with the Champions League coming up, but it'll be the same with Liverpool as well. So I think De Bruyne is one of the mainstays in that starting lineup, so I can't see Pep Guardiola rotating him too much. But at 11.9, I guess you can rotate him for Bruno Fernandes if you want to. And I mentioned that kind of trade after game week 31, going for maybe a Bruno Fernandes to shore up that midfield with those fixtures and that blank coming up for Man City. And the final two midfielders I'm also really excited about. It's going to be Neto and it's going to be Mason Mount. The reason I didn't go for Jack Grealish here is because the Aston Villa fixtures upcoming are quite tough, but then in game week 33 they do have some better fixtures, so you can simply just go for Mason Mount to Jack Grealish before game week 33, and I think that should be quite a profitable transfer to do. But Neto, spoke about from a Wolves attack, I think he's the main attacker there that you want to be kind of going for because he has shown a little bit of consistency throughout this FPL season. Then finally, in that front line, the main player here, the informed player, is Iheanacho from Leicester. Could also go for Jamie Vardy, but why not go for a cheaper option, almost half his price, that is in the better form? So I've gone for Iheanacho here. Right from game week 30, the Leicester fixtures aren't too great, but they kind of progress and increase in quality throughout the season. So I am going for Iheanacho here to kind of get on that bandwagon before too many people do. And I think if you are wildcarding, there's not that many forwards that I would go for instead of him, so you might just bite the bullet there, put him on the bench for game week 30, 31, and then play him from game week 32 onwards. And I've gone for Harry Kane here as my Spurs option. Just remember, in game week 30, Harry Kane is probably one of the most preferred captain options. So if you don't want to go for Harry Kane, you maybe could take him out, but I still think I would go for him. And the nice thing about Spurs is from game week 34 to the end of the season, there's some of the best fixtures in the Premier League. So I would definitely look at a Spurs attacker. You could also look at a defender, but I think right now there are the defensive options that are better than Spurs options. And then finally, in the forward department, we got for Che Adams. I spoke about Danny Ings. If he was to return, he could be a great shot, but Che Adams doesn't look too bad. The past couple of game weeks, the returns have been there, so I'm comfortable bringing the 5.8 forward from Southampton and kind of just seeing how it goes. I mean, those Southampton fixtures are good enough for you to just take a little bit of a punt on going for an Adams, and then you can always just rotate him out. If another forward comes into the line, maybe you want to go for a Bamford or Antonio, you could always look at that option, but I do think the upside on a Che Adams with those Southampton lovely fixtures does look quite good. So now going on to the negatives about this draft. The first thing is that Man City coverage. So the Man City coverage is a little bit of a tough point to go by. I think from a defensive point of view, I think it might be viable. The only reason being is that Man City defense is rotating so much recently. I think a player like a Stones could be worth a punt, but I think it also might be fine not going with a Man City coverage and then just hoping that your other defenders can kind of cover them. And then finally, we do have 4 players from blank game week 33. This isn't the worst thing in the world because, as I mentioned, there are a couple of free transfers before you hit the blank that you can take these players out. But I just wanted to highlight that you guys must please do an analysis of how many blank game week 33 players you do own and what you're going to be doing with that current scenario. So this is basically wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it if you did and subscribe if you're new and have not subscribed yet. I'll be checking you guys for the normal game week 30 preview as well as the team selection coming up later in the week. Otherwise, enjoy this international break and I'll be seeing you guys for some more content shortly. I'll be signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.